be working in a game company?
So ideally, for working on a game like this, it's great to have any kind of multiplayer experience. But understandably, the industry is pretty young, so it's pretty hard to find people who've got, especially massively multiplayer experience, because really there's, maybe 4 projects ever that have been released. So, there's Meridian 59, there's Ultima Online, EverQuest, and Astron's Call, and that's it. So you got to get somebody from one of those teams if you want someone to experience, basically. So next to that, look for any multiplayer experience at all. So if you've had experience working on a game that's got a multiplayer aspect to it, like Command & Conquer or Diablo or something like that, that has a strong multiplayer component, that's also something we look for. But in general, the biggest thing, though, let me take programming as a best example. As I mentioned earlier, this is a service, and because it's a service, we have to have a much more rigorous approach to how we engineer the product, how we actually program everything. Everything has to be very, very well designed and very well executed, because the difference is, in a single-player game, if you have a crash, well, that crash may affect maybe 5 or 10, maybe 30 people, 100 people even. But if in a multiplayer game like this, where everyone's playing on the same server, if the server crashes, that affects all 2,000, 3,000 people that are playing on that server immediately. And until it comes back up, they're not playing. And they're subscribing, right? So they're usually not too happy about that. So you have to have a very strong engineering background. So we look for people who have degrees and are really into engineering process, design, up front before execution, not just like iterating and things like that. So, and then for artists, we look for people who've actually got not only technical skills but traditional art skills as well. Always looking for people who can draw, paint, sculpt in the real world, because our firm belief is, if you can do those things, you're going to be much better at creating the art in the game. And then designers, the thing we look for is, once again, multiplayer experience, and that can be in things like MUDs, multi-user dungeon, text-based things. So that's as valid an experience as a graphical game.
All right. So, sort of in summation, say I'm Joe Kidd. I just got out of college, just came out of high school. Well, let's say I just came out of high school. It's like, at this point, you're about to look at my education. What do you, where do you
go from there?
Where should I go if I want to eventually be working at a company like Origin?
So if you just got out of high school and you really want to know what direction you want to go in and you want to work at a game company, it depends on which direction you want to go in, design, programming, or art. So I'll start with programming. So if you're just getting out of high school and you want to get into the game business, first of all, you're going to want, no matter what direction you're going to go in, you're going to want to take computer science classes, period. Even if you want to be an artist, you should take computer science classes. Maybe not as many as a programmer, but you should definitely take computer science classes, because you want to understand how the things work, because that affects everything you do. And get a degree, get a degree, get a degree, get a degree. I can't stress that enough. Going to school teaches you a lot about how to do things, and we value that very, very highly in our hiring process. So go to college, get a degree, and learn the tools, but also take traditional art and design and literature classes, because those also inform your decisions. So learn about books, learn about movies, learn about other forms of entertainment, because they are very, very valuable sources of information for you.
All right. Now let's move on to some questions about just the game itself.
I guess the one thing, the other question would be, I suppose I'm someone who's out of college and whatnot, and just advice, kind of a general advice to someone who's looking to get in the game industry. What would your advice be to them?
So general advice to someone who's trying to get in the industry, they're in college right now thinking about where they want to go, play lots of games. But of course you have to balance that with your schoolwork. But definitely play lots of games. The more knowledge you have about games, the better informed you are, especially when you go into the interview process, because every interview I ever do, I always ask about games. And so learn about games, play games, understand what makes games good, what makes games bad. Even if you're going to be a programmer or an artist, understanding that also informs everything you do. So play games, but also get your degree, study, and take a wide variety of classes. Don't just concentrate on your major. So if you're a computer science major, take art classes. If you're an artist, take computer science classes. Because the more well-rounded you are, that's what college can offer you, is that well-rounded education. A liberal arts education is key.
Yes. Now, how do I get started to even look at my resume? What is the process of even getting to the point of being noticed? You've done all the right things.
Right.
She's like, okay, now I'm the well-rounded guy. How do I get someone to
hook up with someone and make your own game? Make a very cheap one-off. Something that even if it only took you like 2 or 3 months and the graphics aren't that great or the gameplay isn't that fantastic, but doing something on your own will get you noticed. So if you turn in your resume and there's a CD on there in your resume and there's a game on that CD or there's a URL that you can go to this URL and play my game, that always catches our attention because it rarely ever happens. So if you make your own game and it can be even text-based, like I mentioned earlier. It can be a text-based, MUD. Or get involved with some people who are doing that on their own, because there's tons of people out there who are just doing this kind of stuff, making games on their own, not for profit. Get involved with some of those people while you're still in college. In fact, a lot of people I've hired just started off, like while they were in college, they were playing and working on MUDs.